All right. Hey guys, welcome to the very first edition of Dawg Walk Talk here, presented by Dogs HQ. I'm your host, Jake Roos, and very honored to have our first guest to kick the podcast off, and that's Ivan Maisel of On3.com. Ivan, thanks so much for joining up with us today.
I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad we're this close to the game Saturday night.
Yeah, a lot of buildup for this one. I know Georgia fans are excited. A lot of national buzz around it. Look, when it comes to the national media and having the pulse on it, you're a guy that I consider to be at the forefront of that. I guess, from your view, looking at this matchup, what are the implications for both teams, Georgia and Clemson, going into this one? And, I guess, are there some key factors you'll be watching for?
Jake, implications to me are not as dire as they might be if these guys both weren't in the top five. We can list plenty of examples of teams that have lost early and fought their way back into the national championship picture, even with only 4 teams in a playoff, right? I think the difference to me is that it's Georgia and Clemson. And I'm old enough to remember when that was really a spirited rivalry. And I think there's still some sense of that amongst the fans, certainly the fans of my generation. So, in that sense, the implications and the tension around the game are a little higher, a little greater than otherwise for a non-conference game on Labor Day weekend.
Sure. Yeah. I think a lot of people feel that way. The rivalry, I think, is playing into it for that older crowd. But like you mentioned, that's something that I think probably comes even a little bit before my time of being in college, at UGA and being there. To me, I think a lot of people have been looking forward to this one since it's the first time since 2014 that they've had a chance to match up, as these two programs being in completely different places than they were at that time. Obviously, national championships for Clemson during that stretch. Georgia brings on Kirby Smart in 15 and then has a chance to go in and have a run at a national championship. Seems like they're consistently hanging in that top 10. I guess, what have you seen from the evolution of these programs over that course of time?
Well, I think you're right. They have made huge strides, both of them, and yet, that's instructional to me because we're thinking, oh my God, well, of course, Georgia and Clemson are always going to be good. Well, that was only 7 years ago, so nothing in college football lasts forever with the possible exception of Nick Saban. And, I don't expect Clemson and Georgia to fall off anytime soon. Dabo and Kirby Smart are relatively contemporaries. They got a lot of years ahead of them. And certainly in the last few years, we've seen no sign that either team is going to slack off. And they're in the velvet ropes. In this new system we have, it seems to be all the talent nationally goes to 6 or 8 schools. Georgia and Clemson are both there. So, this is a game that feels like it's going to be good for a while.
Sure. Now, looking ahead to Saturday, I guess, what are some of the key things that you're going to be watching for in this game? I think a lot's been made of, Georgia's O-line versus that front seven of Clemson. The lack of experience maybe on the back end for Georgia in the defensive backfield. JT Daniels, probably the biggest game of his career, no question. Also of DJ Uiagalelei's career as well. So, what are the key storylines you're following?
Well, I'm unsophisticated enough that I'm drifting toward the quarterback stories. Daniels, as you say, he's never seen anything like he's going to see Saturday night. Nobody's played in front of a crowd of any consequence for 2 years. I think the whole country Saturday is going to be very interesting. We always forget first games are sloppy. because we're all so damn excited that the first game is finally here. I think even with teams as talented as Georgia and Clemson, this is not a game that we're going to all want to run back and watch the video of to see the artistry. But, Daniels has got, he's got to be able to handle this kind of atmosphere, that kind of noise, this kind of tension. And really the same to me for Uiagalelei. We all assume because he stepped in, at Notre Dame last year and played well, that he's just going to step right in this year and play well. I still think there's a little difference there. Again, for the reasons of crowd and atmosphere. Now it's a neutral field, which, but to me, that means it's going to be noisy every play.
Sure.
I'm just real curious to how both teams respond to that kind of atmosphere.
Sure. You mentioned Dabo Swinney and Kirby Smart, and I guess I want to ask you specifically about Kirby, just as somebody who's watched him kind of come up through the ranks and, his evolution, are you at all surprised, I guess, for how things have turned out for Kirby Smart, where he's been able to take this Georgia program, just based on his history and what you've seen from him in the past?
Well, I was very surprised that he succeeded immediately. I just don't, you can't predict that. We've seen plenty of guys who've had similar resumes that we all assumed would be great coaches, and it just didn't work. But, if you believe in fit in college football, and I do, certainly Kirby fits at Georgia. He waited a long time. He turned down a lot of jobs to find one he thought fit. And he was right. And he got off to a great start with the talent he found. And now he's got his talent in there, and nothing's really, the consistency, I think, is to be applauded. They haven't made that last final step, but it's hard to do. And it's, it's hard to do when you're in a league with Alabama. And I think he's done a terrific job, and I'm really excited that he's young enough that he'll be around for a while.
Yeah. I kind of subscribe to that, it's like almost the old poker adage of a chip in a chair. You the longer you hang around the final table, that you're giving yourself the opportunity to break through at some point. So I definitely agree with you there. Now, moving, I guess, away from this game in particular, because look, I think we've talked it to death. Everybody has. It feels like it's from every angle. Georgia as a whole this year. There are a lot of expectations, I think, around this program. Returning, a veteran quarterback, a guy who has a lot of experience under his belt in games. A lot of pieces returning on defense, and some great players over there. I guess just from the circles that you're in and the people that you talk to, what is the vibe, I guess, from a national perspective when it comes to Georgia? How are people feeling about this team? And is the expectation get over the hump this year or bust?
No, I don't think it's get over the hump this year or bust. I think I'm not going to speak for everybody. To me, and I'm probably spouting conventional wisdom, but I feel like this team sets up a little better than the last couple have. The talent is deeper. Everybody's talent is deeper because of the unusual circumstances of last year. Noticeably, it's not deep in the defensive backfield, but he had a remedy for that. And whether he culled the right guys out of the transfer portal, we'll find out soon enough. But the team's got a lot of talent. The schedule is not terribly daunting. After Saturday night, at least until you get into December, assuming they get that far. What's the toughest road game? Is it Auburn? And when does Georgia ever have trouble at Auburn? Not for a while. That's the screwy nature of that rivalry. The East is down, and and Florida is always a neutral site game, but Florida's down. So it feels like there's a fresh coat of pavement on the road here for Georgia, and that they got the talent to do it.
Sure. I guess for you, Ivan, talking about this team, you mentioned JT Daniels. What did you see, I guess, in watching him last year, and I guess what are the expectations for him going into this year? I mean, where does he kind of take it, and how much does this Clemson game, I guess, set the stage for what we may be able to expect for him for the rest of the year? Because, like I said, it's the biggest test he's had, and certainly an SEC competition. Well, since he arrived at Georgia, I mean, I think, to be fair, he didn't play a lot of good teams at the end of last year. Cincinnati maybe is an exception to that. But how much do you think this game holds weight and sort of maybe setting the bar for him this season?
Well, it's certainly, it's certainly a big game, but it's September 4th. They got 12 games after that, at least, maybe many more than that.
Sure.
And again, you lose to the number 3 team on September 4th, unless you just have unless you get blown out, you're not going to drop very far. So I don't know that I'm going to put a whole lot of weight on this game. Obviously, you want to see how he responds, in that atmosphere, as I said, and that's what I'm going to be watching. But this is a good team, and I think to come out, to have this game to look forward to get you through that, the drudgery of August practice, to get you through all those summer workouts. We better be ready. We got to be ready right out of the gate. That's much better for a team than opening with Charleston Southern.
Sure.
I think that's another benefit to Georgia, and I expect that they're going to be better because of that.
Sure. I guess kind of wrapping things up here, Ivan, looking outside of Georgia and, just from a national look around college football, what are the storylines you're following this season? What are the teams you're following? Is there anybody out there that maybe you don't think's getting enough love or enough talk about maybe here in the preseason, or, even some guys who could come in and surprise?
Well, Jake, I kind of feel like we're all going to learn a lot Saturday. I just got through saying I'm not going to put a whole lot of weight on the first week, but
Sure.
I think, given the fact that they're going to play in front of crowds instead of cardboard cutouts, everybody's deep this year because so many people came back. I was looking at games to watch this season, and now I can't remember who it is, but there's some game out there where the two teams between them have 40 returning starters. I mean, we're going to see some good football this year because teams are so experienced. They're going to be able to be a little more sophisticated. They're going to have more depth. And I don't know what that means. That's what I'm curious about. What does that mean? I tend to think it will mean that we're not going to have a team that comes out of nowhere, because the best team, the most talented teams are also experienced.
Sure.
So I tend to think we'll see chalk at the top, and we all know who that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ivan, didn't want to take up too much of your time today. Thank you so much for swinging by. Thanks from all the people over at Dogs HQ. And hey, glad to be on the same team over at On 3, man.
Me too. And we'll see you Saturday, and have me back on the show.
Yeah, sounds great, man. Thank you.